Well, glory be and mercy me, we've done it yet again, here on a rainy day in the city of Toronto. Today, I want to talk about a clip that has been circulating that surrounds the controversial figure of Jordan Peterson. Here's the clip.
And so this cricket player was facing racism by his own count. The question is, who, when, what, exactly? Because otherwise it degenerates into something like a discussion of structural racism. And when it becomes abstracted up to that level, first of all, that pits group against group, which I think is entirely counterproductive. And it actually doesn't address the issue. You know, racism is a global and vague term.
Sorry, but why would you possibly do that? What did that mean?
Because I said it was a global and vague term.
The inverted commas as if it's not a real thing.
No, that isn't what it meant.
Well, what did it mean then? Explain.
It meant that it's indicative of low-resolution thinking.
I would like to start this conversation by saying that I actually rather like Jordan Peterson as a man. I think his central goal in life is to lift individuals up. That we come to a divergence point, Peterson and I, because I have a materialist structural analysis of society and he does not. This is what leads him into believing that the concept of systemic racism is an abstraction, as he says. Systemic racism is in no way an abstraction. It is firmly rooted in material, historical analysis of the society. It is real, it is tangible, you can see it, and you can easily express it, which I'm hoping to do here, because Peterson has given us the opportunity to really shine light on what is systemic racism, and how should we understand it and how should we talk about it. So, and I actually believe that this can be done using the works of Jordan Peterson himself. I've read all of his works. I think his goal of trying to be encouraging of especially young men, let's be honest, is admirable. There's nothing wrong with that. A young man needs a kick in the arm and a kick in the ass every so often, and I think Peterson is exactly the right man to do it. So let's use his writings in order to discuss the existence of structural racism. Peterson writes about hierarchy in most, if not all, of his work. Hierarchies are observable, and we all acknowledge they exist. Do we have some examples of hierarchies in the society? Every business is a hierarchy. The church is a hierarchy. The government is a hierarchy. Sure, we interact with them ever so slightly, and in different ways. For example, we elect the people who are within the governmental hierarchy, whereas we don't elect the people who are in the business or the church hierarchies, but that's beside the point. Fundamentally, they are hierarchies and they are full of individuals. Peterson would be quick to say and to remind us of. They are individuals, in fact, they are individuals. And of course, individuals within a hierarchy can do and say racist things, but that has nothing to do with systemic racism, he would say. To which I respond, oh, how interesting. We have very clear examples of institutions and hierarchies that have implemented things that can be called systemically racist. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So you have a hierarchy full of individuals who are operating within the structure of the hierarchy. But every hierarchy that exists has laws, rules, policies, if you prefer, that they operate from as a baseline. These rules, these laws, are put in place in the hierarchy by the individuals who are around at the time, right? This is completely reasonable and completely rational. If you've lost the thread by now, maybe go back and have a re-listen, because everything I've said so far seems pretty straightforward. There are hierarchies full of individuals who can pass legislation and laws. And what's interesting about it is that the people, the individuals in the hierarchy can leave the hierarchy. That another entire different group of individuals can come in and operate within the hierarchy, but the rules and the laws and the policies that were passed are maintained by the hierarchy. In government, this is as obvious as it can be. there are such things as laws. That when a new government comes in, they don't repeal every law that exists. That the structure, the system, the hierarchy of the government maintains laws that have been previously passed until the group of individuals goes and repeals them. Right? Like, this is very simple, what I'm talking about. Very straightforward. And not abstract. It is, in fact, how things work in the society. So the question becomes, okay, John, so a group of individuals can pass a piece of legislation, and that piece of legislation persists after that group leaves, unless confronted, addressed, or repealed by a new group of individuals. So the question is, can a piece of legislation be racist? Of course it can. We have a very clear example of that in the Canadian government. The Indian Act. The Indian Act is an explicitly racist document that was erected by people who were committing a genocide against the First Nations people. Again, those people are long gone. We don't bear the responsibility of having enacted that genocide. However, the legislation that they wrote and that they passed persists, and it still exists within the hierarchy, within the structure, within the system. And that document is racist, explicitly. And so here we have, in the Indian Act, a systemically racist document. Something that is not abstract, something that exists very firmly in the conversation as a systemically racist document. And it's fair to say that the First Nations people, and the white Canadians as well, who are operating underneath that legislation, are operating in a structure that is systemically racist. And all of this is extraordinarily straightforward and extraordinarily understandable. Now I hear some of you already saying, okay, but I didn't have anything to do with that. I wasn't a part of the passage of this sort of thing. That doesn't make me racist. Well, of course not. However, there are those of us that wish to confront this legislation. There are those of us who would like to look at this systemically racist legislation and pull it apart. Get rid of it. Reform it at the very least. And there are those of us who are standing in the way of that process. Now, what would you say of those who are standing in the way of that process? What would you call them? I'll leave that up to you. And so, we come to a point here where I have clearly defined what systemic racism is. It is a rule, a law, a policy that is embedded within the structure of hierarchies, which Jordan Peterson himself acknowledges the existence of, that persists long after the individuals replace the individuals who passed that legislation. That's what makes it systemically racist. And this, Jordan Peterson calls low resolution thinking. That to maintain everything that I just said, which is extremely simple, easy to understand, not abstract in the least, firmly based in a material and historical analysis of our society, he calls it low resolution thinking. I think it might be fair to say that the reason why he says this is because he doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't mean to be rude or cruel, but the man's expertise doesn't seem to extend to material and historical analysis. That he's a psychologist, and I fear that he's fallen for the trap of that many professionals can fall into, which is, well, I'm a highly educated professional man within my field, so that means that I can tell a plumber what to do. No. A plumber knows how to plumb. A psychologist knows how to psychologist. A person who does a material analysis of their society understands more of the society than a person who does not. This leads Peterson into odd and strange conclusions, saying very inverted things. Like, his fear is that an analysis of structural racism creates groups and pits them against one another. This is an inversion of understanding of what is actually going on. That Those who do analysis on structural racism are not creating groups and pitting them against one another. They are acknowledging that there are groups, or that there have been groups created that are in fact pit against one another. That analyzing the existence of a phenomenon does not mean you agree with the phenomenon or wish that the phenomenon persist or continue. This inversion of thought that allows Peterson to believe that those who are actually analyzing the subject are in fact creating the problem, ironically, creates a group that he pits himself against. Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun how that actually works? How if you actually don't know what you're talking about, you can stumble into all kinds of fun, ironic situations like this, as Mr. Peterson certainly has on this particular occasion. So, let's just go through it very quickly one more time. Systemic racism is when a hierarchy passes a rule, and then that rule persists past the people who created the rule in the first place. It's an extremely straightforward definition. It's understandable. It's not abstract. It is tangible. It is material. It is based in a historical analysis. It is real. You can see it. There are clear documents that follow this definition explicitly, such as the Indian Act. And if you refuse, as Peterson does, and at this point it must be called a refusal, if you refuse to do a historical, material, structural analysis of your society, then you can pretend to be confused by extremely basic things, such as systemic racism. And for those who still think that what we are attempting to do is to assign blame against white people and white supremacy and all of this kind of thing, we understand that you weren't around when the residential school system was erected or when the Indian Act was passed or any of this. We understand that. What we are hoping is that you will join us and not oppose us as we attempt to tear down the institutions and legislation that are systemically and structurally embedded in our hierarchies, as we attempt to confront them and tear them down. We hope that you at least don't stand in our way. So, I think that this is going to be the end of this particular video. Please like, please share, please subscribe. I've got $1 or a Patreon down below. I could use $1. If you've got $1 jangling around in your pocket, you don't know what to do with it, maybe think about sending it my way. We should be supporting leftist voices. We should be supporting people who understand that we can't inadvertently create groups the way Peterson has and pit ourselves against them. That it's about tearing down the illegitimate structures and the illegitimate systems that exist in the society, certainly exist. So, always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to ensure you never realize it. Don't let them. Good luck. We're gonna need it.